3191. Michelangalone. Error code 400. Summary: Raph, Donnie, and Leo, the iconic trio. It's always been the three of them against the world with their adoptive big sister April. But what will they do when their trio dynamic is threatened by a goat man and his masked henchman, who seems to have a lot of turtle-like features? This is a separated owl where Mikey gets separated and raised by Draxum. Notes: this took a while, so I hope you enjoy it. This chapter has been updated on March 21, 2023. See the end of the work for more notes. Chapter 1, Left Behind. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Lou Jitsu ran through the collapsing halls of Draxum's mansion, holding on tight to the 4 baby turtles, who were currently wiggling around in his grasp. In response to their retaliation, he held on tighter to make sure they didn't wiggle themselves out of his hold. Still trying to remember the turns the 2 gargoyles made when they brought him here. Left, right, no wait, it was another left, he thought to himself as he descended further into the house. But with every turn he makes, he seems to become even more lost in this labyrinth of a place. Making a sharp left, he looks ahead, seeing what he hopes is an exit. The walls creak, getting ready to collapse at any given moment. He looks back at the hall he just came from, seeing how the fire from the lab is spreading fast. Its green flames were spreading like wildfire, making the mansion struggle to keep itself up. The explosion from earlier was only making the state of the mansion worse. But most importantly, they were not being followed by the giant sheep yoke named Draxum. He takes a breath of relief. One less problem to deal with, he thought, looking forward toward the exit, silently telling himself he's almost out, just a little further. He pushed on towards the exit, only a few feet away. A loud snap drifted his attention away from the exit to the ceiling. The roof collapsed right in front of him, ripping a hole in the wall to the outside. He quickly jumps back to avoid being crushed, only to trip on a piece of rubble in the momentum. He stumbles backward, losing grip on the 4 baby turtles. They were sent flying backwards. Lou Jitsu hit the ground hard on his back as his head recoiled, hitting the floor just as hard. Almost imminently, he felt like there was pressure added to his head. He opened his eyes to see that his vision had gotten blurry. He felt groggy as he crooked his head to look around. Despite the blurry vision, he could see the green silhouettes of the baby turtles. Just down the hall, an all too bright light is seen. The fire from before was coming closer. He sits up, rubbing the back of his head. I'm going to feel that in the morning, he says to the room. He looks around, seeing baby turtles. We're starting to crawl away, spreading further in the chaos of the mansion. He had to move fast. He stood up only to feel his limbs wanting to give out on him. He started to feel nauseous as he fought his stomach, threatening to empty whatever was in there. He pushes through as he looks around for the small turtles. His eye darted to the biggest one first, being so close. He scoops them up, looking around for the other 3. The fire had caught up with them. More debris from the mansion fell, making it harder to see the baby turtles from the smog that was now rising. He sees 2 more turtles crawling away. The room shakes, making more pieces of the roof collapse. He scurried over to reach the 2 turtles, fighting his body, trying to give in with every step. He grabs the 2 turtles before any of the debris could fall and hurt them. 3 down, 1 to go, he told himself, while frantically looking for the last one. But now the smoke was clouding his vision, making it harder to see. It was all blurry to him. Nothing but colors he could really make out. The flames rose. The 3 turtles in his hand were winning now. One of them even began to sob. Debris falls above them, and Lou Jitsu ducks to protect the 3 turtles from the falling embers. His back burns as small pieces of rubble. He looks back up to continue his search. The smoky air fills his lungs as he begins coughing. Crap, if this keeps up, none of us will make it out of here, he thought as he used his arm to block off the smoke. He starts hearing the small sobs coming from what sounded like an infant far away. He looked around for the noise, but he couldn't see anything. Once again, the sobs can be heard over the roaring flames. Seems his mutation had increased some other senses. He closed his eyes and used his ears that have increased dramatically from the mutation. The sobs are more vivid, coming from his left. Hoping it was the other turtle, he looks around, hoping to catch a glimpse of his green pigment skin. But he saw nothing. What? No. This didn't make sense, he thought. I can't hear its cries. A piece of wood drops, marking the room shake. He walked further toward the area to investigate the missing turtle. He started to cough aggressively from the lack of oxygen his lungs were receiving. The turtles in his grasp started to cough as well, making them whine harder, wasting any breaths they can take. He looked back at the now gaping hole in the wall. It was a perfect escape, but he couldn't just leave. He was still down 1 turtle. But if he doesn't, they will all die here in this mansion. 1 for the price of many, or many for the price of 1. It felt like a cruel joke. His mind was whirring with the thoughts, but he knew what he had to do. He looks around one last time, hoping to see the turtle, but nothing. He closed his eyes, hoping for something. A whine, sobbing, anything that could indicate a sign of life. Nothing. Only the sound of the flames roared as it consumed the room. A loud creak is heard as the walls threaten to cave in. Gritting his teeth, he runs through the hole in the wall as the building collapses behind him, pushing him forward. He falls forward this time, and manages to hold onto the three turtles. He turns around, seeing the once giant mansion now crumpled to the ground. The three turtles are crying as Lou tries to calm them down. A part of him thought that they understood what had just happened. They were weeping from the loss of something. No, someone. He looks back up to the now decimated mansion as tears begin to swell in his own eyes. Nothing could have survived that. He shut his eyes, allowing the tears to fall as guilt overrides his mind. How could I have done that, he thinks. I need to go back and search through the rubble until I find the other turtle. The cries of the three turtles snap him back to reality. No, I have to focus on the matter at hand, he thinks, looking back at the mansion. If Draxum had somehow managed to escape, he needs to leave far away from this mansion. Not to mention, it won't be long until Big Mama realizes he's gone. He needed to leave the hidden city now, or he and the three other turtles will surely be taken in by Big Mama. His face now grim with determination, he stands up and begins to walk away toward the hidden city, hoping to find a portal back to New York. This is for the best, he tells himself. He can only hope the small turtle's fate was quick. For now, he needs to focus and leave this under the city while he still can. This couldn't be happening. His work was gone, everything burned, and experiments. Well, there was no way they managed to escape in time. He shoves the paper on the desk away, sending them flying. He clenched his fist to the point his knuckles would be white if he wasn't wearing his armored gloves. Hugin and Munin, flying just above his shoulders, look at each other, concerned for their boss. It was silent only for a moment before Munin spoke. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we go check out the mansion? Maybe something survived. This got the attention of Draxum, who looked at the two. What do you mean? He asked the two gargoyles as if they were speaking nonsense. Well, it's been a few days now, and the smoke must have cleared up by now. Maybe something survived, Hugin said, supporting his companion's idea. Draxum only stared at the two. They both felt a drip of sweat creep down their face from his intense stare. Baron sighed. I suppose it won't hurt to look. Besides, we have been cooped up in this stump of a lab for too long. The gargoyles cheer gleefully that he agreed. Draxum turns to the now empty table, grabbing his helmet, and puts it on. The two gargoyles landed on his shoulders as they headed to the crumbled mansion. When he arrived, the gargoyles pounced and took a lap over Draxum's head. All right, boss, where should we look first? Munin asked. Draxum thought for a moment. You two can go check my office. Bring anything that contains any mutation research, he told them. What about you, boss? Hugin asked. I'll be in the study by the entrance. Well, meet back here in an hour, he said as he walked off. He approached what used to be the entranceway, now burned and collapsed. But even in its state, he could see that the building could still be rebuilt. It would take 3 to 4 years, perhaps even less, if he acts quickly enough. He used his magic vines to move large pieces of rubble blocking the broken-down hallway. Eventually, he clears a path to the study and begins his search. He searches for 30 minutes, only finding burned books and discarded sheets of paper, either burned or torn. None of them carried enough information to help him recreate the mutagen. In frustration, he threw them at the wall. Useless, he cried as they were thrown across the room. He sighed, spotting an old swivel chair that had somehow managed to survive the fire. He walks over to it, sitting down, needing to calm his nerves. He looked up to see a part of the roof open. Some bits of the roof were barely hanging on in a desperate attempt to hold itself together. He gave a sigh, letting the silence consume him. This incident will set him back years. It didn't take long before he heard small whines and sobbing not far away. His head shoots up. The small whine appears again, barely audible and significantly weaker. He gets up from his chair in search of it. None of his pets could have survived, let alone be here after being freed. He heard another small, even weaker whine. It sounded muffled, like it was struggling to breathe. He followed the noise to a pile of rubble. He quickly moved the rubble using his vines and hands, and gently moving the pieces. After moving around for the sound, he finally found its source. A small turtle. Notes: go check out my Tumblr at errorcode 400.